Hey, welcome to Lifetime Wellness with Coach Cody. I'm your host of this learning project. I want to talk to you about several of the things in the fall semester. Hopefully it will help you with your exams. It will reiterate some of the things you've learned throughout the course, throughout the modules that you've learned. Let's jump into consumer fitness. We learned that they have different marketing techniques. We have to be smart consumers. We've got to realize when we're being given information and we've got to take that information and we've got to make good choices with it. We've got to figure out how the advertisers, how the marketing experts, what message are they trying to give us? We learned that there are several techniques out there that they use. You got the bandwagon technique. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon. Everybody jumps on, this is a product everybody's got to have. If you're anybody, you'd be using this product. We've learned about the glittering generalities. We learned about how they make it so sparkly, and this is the perfect product that everyone should have. We learned about the plain folks, good old folks like you and me. We shop at this place. You should shop here because you're just like you and me. We learned about the scientific evidence, how they will use the evidence to persuade you this is a product you should have. How they try to say things such as 4 out of 5 doctors will say this. 2 out of 3 dentists will say this. They use the scientific evidence to persuade us that this is a product we should have. And then the last one is the testimonial. You've probably been up late at night. You've seen the weight loss pills, you've seen the magic bullet, you've seen all these things that they tell you, hey, it worked for me. And if it worked for me, I'm sure it can work for you. That's your testimonial. Those are the main techniques that advertisers will use to influence us to purchase their product. We've got to be smart consumers and realize that everything we see, we can't take everything at its word, at its value. We've got to go and research some things ourselves. If we want the best for us, we've got to be willing to put in a little bit of work and research it ourselves. Now, the government does do a good job of putting some regulations out there to where companies, they can't knowingly deceive us to purchase their product. They have to tell the truth. Not to say that everything is black and white, clear cut, but for the most part, what they're presenting to us is information that is truthful. You've seen in the past where they have recalls, whether it's a baby's crib, whether it's cars. If you look in the news now, GM is also recalling more cars. The government does put things in place, guidelines in place to protect you and me, the consumer. And for that, I'm grateful. But at the same time, we have to be smart consumers and do our own homework, do our own research, make this thing work for us. We learned about keeping our receipts. It's very important. Very important. Keep your receipts. Hold on to those things because you never know when you may have to take a product back, when a product is faulty, when a product doesn't do what it's supposed to do, when it breaks before it's time. Your receipt has information on it that will help you to return it or get a replacement. Your receipt is proof of purchase. It also, a lot of times, the warranty information is on that receipt. So you want to hold on to your receipts for several years, in my opinion. All right, I hold on to my things for several years. We learned about 4 different types of payments. We learned about cash. Everybody loves cash. A lot of us don't carry cash with us anymore. Ever since the debit card came out, we don't carry cash as much as we used to. We keep our debit cards, which is a very, very good tool to help us stay in our budget, because with the debit card, unlike a credit card, a debit card, you only get to spend what's yours. It's connected to your account to where it only allows you to take out the amount of money that belongs to you. So if you have $1,000 in the bank, then you have $1,000 on that card. And if you were to swipe it and you got to 1,000, it wouldn't go past that. Whereas a credit card, on the other hand, allows us to use money that isn't necessarily ours. It's money we're borrowing. We're saying we'll pay it back. Credit cards are very dangerous if they're not used properly. You need to be very wise with that. especially when you go off to college. You're going to have a lot of people who are offering you credit cards, and sometimes it's not the best interest to grab those credit cards. You have some financial gurus who tell you avoid credit cards at all costs. Okay, I'm not that extreme, but at the same time, I do understand that credit cards can be beneficial. They can help you increase your credit score, but they can also be very, very dangerous. And if you don't take care of business properly, then it can ruin your credit score, which could make it hard for you to have greater things in life down the road. Have a house, sometimes even getting good jobs. Your credit score, they will look at that and see if you're a person who is trustworthy, who pays their debts. So be aware of that. And the last one was checks. Checks were very, very big in the past. A lot of places are going away from checks. A lot of people won't even accept checks anymore. So you got cash, you got checks, you've got debit cards, you got credit cards. Most people have a debit card. It allows you to do a lot of the things you can do with a credit card, but at the same time, you only have access to your money. It's not money you're borrowing. So a debit card is a very good item to have that will allow you to remain in your budget. Mental health. Mental health is something that a lot of times gets because we're not knowledgeable, we think that mental health means something's always wrong with someone, and it's only affecting a small amount of people, where we all at some point will probably deal with some type of mental health issue, and learning how to handle and to best control these situations or get the upper hand is very, very vital to our success as men and women. We learned in our mental health unit that it's more common. Mental health issues are more common than you may have thought. There's a lot of different resources out there for mental health. There's a lot of different avenues and organizations that are out to help people who are dealing with these types of issues. You've got crisis hotlines. You've got, hopefully you've got a trusted adult you can talk to. You've got mental health professionals. There's no shame in seeking out the help of someone who is a professional. You've got guidance counselors. A lot of you have your counselor at school that you should be able to reach out to and help you through these types of situations. We learned about eustress versus distress. Eustress is a good stress. It's something that pushes you to be better. It pushes you to do better. You want to get into college, you have to study. There's a stress that comes with that, but that's a eustress. Whereas distress is the negative stress. It's the stress that weighs you down. It's the stress that causes other problems in life. Because if you get what they call a stress overload, when you become overloaded with stress, you'll see things, warning signs, symptoms such as loss of sleep, lack of being able, the inability to sleep, lack of appetite. Maybe you eat too much. There's many, many more. You may get headaches. You may withdraw from your family and friends. These are some of the symptoms or the signs that a person's stress has gotten to a level where they may need some help to handle it before it gets out of hand. We learned about self-esteem. Self-esteem. Self means you. Self means no one can make you feel about yourself a way that you don't let them. You should be able to control how you feel about you. All right, I'm a firm believer in, I do care how people view me, but at the same time, I understand how I see myself is the most important thing. And if you have high self-esteem, that means you see yourself in a good light. You view yourself in a positive manner. You feel good about who you are. It's going to take you far in life. Now, there's a difference between high self-esteem and arrogance. You want to stay away from arrogance. Arrogance is when you think you're better than what you are, or when you think you're better than other people. We don't want arrogance. We just want to have high self-esteem. Low self-esteem is when you feel low, when you don't feel good about who you you are. You feel like you're lacking. You feel inadequate. People with low self-esteem generally will fall into other traps such as drug and alcohol abuse, peer pressure. Because they are insecure, they will find themselves doing things that they wouldn't do if they had higher self-esteem. So you want to build your self-esteem up, build yourself up, and don't let anyone tear you down. We learned about depression. And there's a difference between depression and feeling sad. Feeling sad, we all are going to experience that at some time where we just don't feel happy about this. We feel sad. Well, depression is more than just not feeling happy. When a person is depressed, they have this gloomy feeling, but it lasts for a long time. Feeling sad comes and it goes. Depression seems to linger. And when you feel this way, you need to seek out help quickly, because the sooner you get help, the better chance you will have to succeed with combating, with handling your depression. All right. Suicide, we learned in our modules, it's the second leading cause of death among teens in the world. The second. All right. Now, most people with high self-esteem are not going to commit suicide. Generally, a person with low self-esteem, a person that is suffering from depression, may find themselves with these kinds of thoughts. So again, you need to reach out, grab some type of help, tell someone what you're going through. You need to make sure you get that help. We learned about eating disorders. We learned about anorexia. Anorexia is when you don't eat, or you eat just enough to maintain living. They consume a low caloric intake because they fear gaining weight. They have a misperception of themselves. When they look in the mirror, they see something that's not there. You and I look in the mirror, look at them, and we see a person that is almost skin and bones, and we say, wow, you need to eat. They look in the mirror and they see someone who has excess fat. They need to lose some more weight. So they may exercise a lot, and they may eat very little, just enough to continue to survive, but not enough that will help them, that will allow them to gain weight. And a lot of times they will have a lot of other side effects and symptoms. For young ladies, a lot of times her menstrual cycle will be out of whack. She may stop having a cycle. You may start losing hair. You may end up anemic because you don't have enough red blood cells. Your body totally gets out of whack when you suffer from anorexia. It's something we need to stop joking about. A lot of times we see a person that's thin, and the first thing we say as a joke, we say, wow, he's anorexic, she's anorexic. That's not something we want to joke about anymore. Bulimia is a little different than anorexia because they do eat, but what they'll do is they'll eat a lot, and then they'll go purge. They'll vomit it, or they'll take laxatives to get it out of their system so that they don't gain the weight. And then they'll exercise a lot as well. It's a matter of control. And then the last of the eating disorders is what we call binge eating. They will eat a lot of food in one sitting. They will sit there and they will eat a lot. They may eat 2 pizzas and a box of Twinkies. It's just an enormous amount of food. These types of disorders fall under the mental health umbrella, and there's a lot of resources out there to help someone who's going through that. If you have a friend who's dealing with these types of issues, the best thing to do is to try to lead them to someone who can help, because a lot of times our advice may not be the best advice. Cardiovascular health, I love it. You have what's called your resting heart rate. Resting, not doing anything. That's your heart rate when you aren't active. So if you were to sit still and you were to check your heart rate, you could check it here, which is your carotid heart rate. You could check it in your wrist, which is your radial heart rate. All right. You would look at your second hand on your watch, count how many times your heart beat in 10 seconds, and then multiply that by 6. When you get your resting heart rate, that will tell you how many times your heart beats within 1 minute when you're not doing anything. Then you have your working heart rate, which is how fast your heart beats when you are working or you are moving, you are into the exercise But what you want to find out, if you want to improve cardiovascular health, you've got to find out your target heart range. And what the target is something you shoot for, you aim at. This is the heart rate you want to get to in order to get maximum cardiorespiratory or cardiovascular endurance. If you want to improve in this area, you've seen people running and they may stop at the stop sign while they're waiting on cars and they keep running in place and they're checking their pulse, or they have the new heart rate monitors, and they're keeping their heart rate up at a certain level. Because if your heart rate isn't at least in your target range, then you're not getting the benefit of the exercise. The exercise you're doing is not intense enough, or if it's too intense, you need to dial it down. So in the modules, you learn how to calculate the target heart range of a very valuable skill. For when you really want to get in the best shape of your life, you need to know how much your heart rate needs to be beating in order for that to happen. Again, your radial is in your wrist. Carotid is under your neck here. You can find your heart rate, find your pulse, count to 10 seconds on the watch, multiply that by 6, you have your resting heart rate. So in order to calculate your target heart range, you got to take 220 and subtract your age. 220 minus your age, okay? That gives you your maximum heart range. All right, then you take your maximum heart range minus your resting heart rate. So the number you got from checking here, you subtract that from 220 minus your age. So let's say if you're 15, 220 minus 15 would be 205. And then let's say if your heart rate was 160, then it would be 160, 205 minus 160, okay? Then you're gonna multiply that by two different numbers, by 0.50 and by 0.85. Now what that means is this: when you work out, you need to push yourself at least 50% of your maximum effort, but no more than 85%. You never work out at 100%. You work out at the maximum 85%. Okay, so between 50 and 85%. So you multiply the number you've got times 0.50, and then multiply that same number by 0.85, and then you'll take the two answers from that and you'll add your resting heart range back to it. Okay, when you get that, you'll get your upper and your lower limits for your target heart range. So let's say I'm 36 years old. Let's just say my target heart range is between 147 beats per minute and 189 beats per minute. If I'm on the treadmill and I put my hands on the heart monitor and it says that my heart rate is beating at 210 beats per minute, that would be a sign to me I need to slow down. My heart rate is going too fast and I'm going to end up hurting myself. Slow down. If I'm on the treadmill and I put my hands on the monitor and I realize that my heart rate has dropped down to 110, that means I'm not going fast enough. And if I'm not going fast enough, I'm not pushing myself hard enough to get the benefits of this exercise. So I'd have to push myself a little bit harder. We learned about aerobic and anaerobic exercise, aerobic and anaerobic activity. Aerobic, think of this: air, oxygen. Aerobic exercise, aerobic exercise are exercises that require the intake of oxygen in order to produce the energy. Okay, so it's something that's going to take a little bit longer, because it's not, if I stood up from a chair and I walked across the room real fast, or I sprinted on a 100-meter dash, that would be anaerobic, because I'm not going to have to breathe very much for that activity. However, if I was running a mile run or mile jog, if I'm on the exercise bike, that's anaerobic, because I'm going to do it for a while and it's going to require that I'm breathing more to produce the energy. I need more oxygen to produce the energy. We learned about risk factors of cardiovascular disease, some of the things that you can control. One of them is proper diet. All right, it's up to us to fight off heart disease. Eating well and exercising are two great things we can do to minimize our chance of getting or contracting cardiovascular disease. And then, of course, to not smoke. Smoking is something that a lot of people don't realize does affect their heart. We only think, when we think of smoking, we think of lung cancer, and that's about it, but it does affect your heart as well. How to avoid cardiovascular disease. Maintain a healthy weight. You've calculated your BMI and your fitness test. You know they're finding me somewhere in this range. I'm considered overweight. Maybe you start putting together a workout plan, a workout program that helps you to lower your weight to a healthy weight for yourself. Eat a diet that's low in saturated fats and cholesterol and in sodium. Those things will help your heart as well. Participate in regular activity, regular cardiovascular activity. It's got to be something you do more than once a month, preferably 3 times a week. Even if it's just walking through the neighborhood, walk the dog, jump some rope, go swimming, something that's going to make your heart rate elevate and get in that target heart range for about 20 minutes. And then you'll get the benefits from that exercise. And then, of course, to stay away from smoking. 3 main functions, and we'll finish it with this. 3 main functions of your cardiovascular system. 1, it delivers oxygen and nutrients throughout your body. Delivers all these things. So when your heart beats and it pumps the blood through your body, it's traveling through your body and it's taking oxygen and it's taking nutrients throughout your body. It removes waste from the body. So when I breathe in, I take in oxygen. When I breathe out carbon dioxide. My blood, my cardiovascular system is what delivers the oxygen, picks up the carbon dioxide, and then it releases it out of my lungs and also through the urinary system as well. And then the other function of the cardiovascular system is it fights off disease. Your white blood cells are your body's defense system, and it also seals cuts to prevent blood loss. So in our blood cells we have what's called platelets, and those platelets will come and clog up. It's like a traffic jam. They clog up when you have a cut to make sure you don't bleed out, and eventually if you hold pressure on there, it will start to scab up and those platelets will block so that you don't bleed to death. So you can see your body is a pretty amazing thing, and you only get one of them. So you might as well take care of it. Thanks for watching. I hope this will help you with your final exam.